Welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. We're looking at the sun in two wavelengths here, ionized iron and ionized helium. 131 and 304 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. We've got one sunspot and some active regions rising. This active region up here in the northeast, not yet a sunspot. 2833 has remained pretty stable, no major flaring over the past 24 hours. Here's a close-up of it in two different wavelengths. This is 1600 and 335 angstroms. And we've been showing more and more composite imagery lately on the videos. Check out previous days if you haven't. We've also noted a coronal mass ejection. If you look at the viewpoint from stereo A out here at Lagrangian point 5, you can see a coronal mass ejection propagating as we make the video here. It's on the opposite side of the sun. And for you new viewers out there, thanks for tuning in. Earth would be in this direction from the perspective of stereo A. Here's that graphic again. Lagrange point 5 is the location of stereo A. It's called stereo ahead because it sees solar weather before Earth does. And here's another full disk view in 193 angstroms. Coronal hole there right on the solar equator. That is a North Pole-oriented coronal hole, and you can expect to see a high-speed coronal hole wind stream from that in a couple of days here, about 3 days. We can expect to see a little uptick in geomagnetism as a result of those incoming solar, primarily protons. Also some electrons and some helium nuclei and so on. So next, looking at a chart of the solar system. Here's where stuff is now as we approach another full moon. There's where things will be in 1 week. Here's a star chart. You've got Jupiter and Saturn up there near the ecliptic, which is that yellow line, the path the sun will take across the sky. I use in-the-sky.org, and I face mine to the south. I'm currently facing south. Which direction do you face when you watch our videos? Next, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, the radio output of the upper chromosphere and lower corona, which, again, for you new viewers, is this little area right here. The radio flux is currently at 79, having seen a little uptick since yesterday's video. Here's a one-year chart of the radio flux, the black line. The red line below it is the proportional factor in solar activity, the sunspot number. Again, no solar storms or anything like that forecasted. We're currently looking at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. Earthquake lull continues. We're seeing a drought of 6 and 7 magnitude earthquakes here. That is a 90-day bar graph, courtesy Volcano Discovery. We did see a 6 magnitude here. I think it's been downgraded, but it was near New Zealand in the Kermadec Trench. Also a 5.7 at Greece, the largest there for quite a while. Here's the location of that Kermadec Trench quake, listed at a 5.9 there by USGS. And we'll just go up the list here and see what else we have over the past 24 hours. That 5.9 came in yesterday at 11:14 Universal Time. Northeast of New Zealand in the Kermadec Trench, in between New Zealand and Tonga. The 5.7 magnitude quake at Greece came in at 22:14 last night. That's 22:14 Universal Time. We saw a lot of deep quakes yesterday. Here's one more today. It's a 4.2 at Argentina at over 260 kilometers depth. Some aftershocks there at New Zealand. Alaska saw a small deep quake. Mexico saw a 5.0 magnitude quake at over 100 kilometers depth. That one came in early this morning at 2:25 Universal Time. And one more deep quake to report. At Dominica in the Caribbean, we saw a 4.0 at 116 kilometers. Mount Abico's been erupting. Let's check the rest of what's going on in the last 24 with volcanoes. There's some imagery of Mount Abico. That one can be found at volcanodiscovery.com. Explosive activity continues at Etna. One of the more significant eruptions there at the Sicilian volcano. It's produced a 20,000-foot ash plume. One of the most significant eruptions yet from it. Mount Abico, as we showed you a minute ago, has been exploding. Ash plume there estimated between 10 and 14,000 feet. At the top, Suwanosejima, flight level 060. It's erupting and producing a volcanic ash cloud. Fuego in Guatemala exploding. Moderate to strong explosions continue to erupt at regular intervals of 10 to 15 per hour. And it's producing a 15,500 foot plume of volcanic ash. Revenador also in Ecuador, exploding, flight level 150. Sabancaya, exploding, flight level 270. It's the tallest ash plume created by volcanic activity on Earth, down there over Peru. Nevados de Chilean were unable to detect. Don't let that be a signal to attempt to pole vault the caldera. Please do not do so. It could be unhealthful. And we prefer for our viewers to be healthy so that they can watch our videos. Going back to space data here is the GOES 16 X-ray flux, and you saw this one little B-class flare here over the past 24 hours. Nothing to write home about. And I believe we actually showed that already. It came out of Sunspot 2833, the only sunspot group currently on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. No big strikes on the GOES proton flux, and no surprises there. No coronal mass ejections have been flung our way recently. And the GOES magnetometers are getting a little spiky here in the past couple of hours. Expect to see some higher readings out of this. The graph might expand as there are some very direct potential field surface source lines that the Earth is connecting to. So this sudden uptick here right around midnight local time for the satellite, which is what this M means. The N's mean noon local time for the GOES 16. And we're getting into some strong magnetism right now. So expect to see the GOES magnetometer light up a little bit throughout the day today. Here's why. The top view ecliptic plane field plot is showing us that the Earth's potential field surface source line is about to snap into this. Let me bring up the last image here. It's about to snap into this more direct magnetic field region here. You can see these broad lines. And that should be the source of continued increases in GOES magnetometer readings throughout the day. I would say the activity rising in the northeast is probably not a sunspot if I had to guess, which I don't, but I'll just leave it at that. Keep in mind this data is 1.5 hours old. Here's the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. It's the same data just from a different perspective, although it does also show you the solar magnetogram. And here's the coronal hole plot. It also shows you the sun's B field in blue, and you can see this large area right here. Let me bring up the latest image on this one as well. There is a coronal hole right around this area, and it is North Pole coronal hole. It's a trans-equatorial coronal hole. It's lost a little bit of its coherence here over the past few days. We can still expect to see a high-speed wind stream from it. So, next, looking at the LASCO C2, which is at Lagrangian point 1. And I'll bring up this old, there you go, Lagrange point 1. That's where the LASCO C2 is located, part of the Discover spacecraft. And you can see this coronal mass ejection from the far side of the sun here starting to propagate out of the LASCO C2. It's on the far side of the sun, folks. It's nowhere in the Earth vicinity. Sunspot 2833 has remained a beta-class sunspot, so the possibility of additional solar flares remains as it approaches the northwestern limb of El Sol. Planetary K-index currently at 3. And it's a result of that magnetism, most likely. We'll get to the real-time solar wind momentarily. First, some geospace magnetosphere movies. I stand corrected. First, the real-time solar wind. All right. Fair enough. Current conditions pretty weak here. Pretty weak solar output. Solar wind density 4.7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 361 kilometers per second. And here's a geospace magnetosphere movie looking at magnetohydrodynamic pressure in nanopascals over the past 4 hours. And we'll let it play all the way through since it refreshed. We try not to edit the videos to get them onto your screen as promptly as possible. So there's the geospace magnetosphere movie in terms of pressure. You're looking at about 12 Earth diameters there of the geospace. Next, looking at coming a little closer to home here. Ground magnetic perturbations, geospace delta B, changes to the Earth's B field. And we see more ground magnetic perturbations over the Canadian North Pole than over the Siberian one. Also some major magnetic regions here south of South America, as well as down toward the South Geomagnetic Pole, which is someplace down here, as opposed to on the Antarctic continent, thousands of miles from the geographic South Pole. Anyway, like the last geospace magnetosphere movie, this is 4 hours of data, courtesy of University of Michigan. By the way, we do stream live regularly to Twitch. Today we'll be doing that for the meteorology segment. If you haven't checked us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/smAsho, there is additional content there. Also, thanks to our YouTube subscribers, new and old. And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to press subscribe, press the notification bell so you know when we put up videos. And don't forget to check our playlists as well, youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. Thanks for interacting and leaving comments and so on. We're also on BitChute. And we haven't been doing cosmology segments because, frankly, I don't have time. So there are some stories to cover. We will get to cosmology segments. Look for that coming soon. I will show the astronomy picture of the day today, though, because it's got to do with star formation. So here's apod.nasa.gov. And a great image here of star formation. Somebody drew in the Taurus area, the area around the equatorial plane of the star. And you can see the jets emanating from the poles of the star. Great example of that. And here's a quote from the caption. Details of these new observations are being interpreted to bolster conjectures that jets are generated and shaped at least in part by magnetic fields in the rotating disk. I'll just leave it at that. apod.nasa.gov. That's today's astronomy picture of the day. Cosmology segment's coming back, and if you haven't checked our previous cosmology segments, again, youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. We're pushing 200 videos in the cosmology segments playlist. So check those out if you haven't. And let's get into the realm of electron flux. Electrons surrounding planet Earth can charge satellites, and we see some of that going on mainly over the Caribbean, northern South America, a little bit of southern Mexico and Central America. About to move into the Central Pacific and out of the Central Atlantic. Some minor charging hazards there. Surface charging, north of the equator. Here's a one-year chart of the electron flux from Solon.info. And we see a reduction. We've come out of electron storm levels here back to more moderate levels of electron flux. It's the 3-day chart from the GOES 16. It's measuring that at the F ionosphere layer, by the way. From its geosynchronous orbit, it's using radiography to measure the electron flux around 300 kilometers of altitude. Here's the forecast model. And NOAA forecasting a decrease over the next couple of days in electron flux. I have no argument there. The green boxes are the forecast. Here's a total electron content forecast showing you the entire air column's electron density from your handset to a GPS satellite, potentially. Showing some minor nighttime anomalies here in the same areas where we're seeing charging hazards, not that much of a surprise. Places like the Central Atlantic, Northern South America, the Caribbean, and the Central Pacific. Some nighttime GPS errors likely to be happening there. We're being informed by the Total Electron Content Forecast. Here's another diagram of the atmosphere. It's the Van Allen belts and altitudes in miles. Feel free to pause the video. Next, looking at one slice, just the F ionosphere layer. And we're seeing continued anomalies in the ionosphere. So we've been covering this the last about 5 days. We even featured imagery on our thumbnails as we try to condense a lot of information into the videos, the thumbnails, etc. So we're seeing some surprisingly high vibrational frequencies in places like the South Central Pacific Ocean, right in here, and over Central South America as well, really. So ionospheric anomalies continuing. Here's the latest image. That's from 8:45 Universal Time, looking more normal at that moment. Again, here's a diagram of the atmosphere. We show it to show you where the F ionosphere is located. The ionosphere is broken into letter-designated regions like D, E, and F. And this image also shows you penetration of electromagnetic radiation and temperature of the thermosphere. And we're going to do a meteorology segment. Make sure you check that out. We've been making separate videos. We'll stream live for Twitch. And getting back to our daily space weather video, don't forget to check out our meteorology segment if you haven't. We're going into bonus features, starting with the El Teide, latest imagery from El Teide, Spain, the ground-based solar observatory. And I would say that there is still a possibility for Earth-facing coronal mass ejections here as we see major filaments up here. Check out the size of these filaments. Very serious filaments. You can see one even overlapping the edge of the limb here. And some of those could indeed eject. We'll be keeping an eye on it. And when I say ion, well, the pun is intentional. Next, the thematic map here, part of the GOES 16 SUVI. And you can see all these filaments here, these dark orange portions, those are all filaments. Likelihood of ejection is still there. I won't say a coronal mass ejection watch or warning at this moment. Next, thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. If you enjoy the videos, please consider becoming a patron. If you'd like the earliest alerts and multimedia and other stuff nobody else gets to see, become a patron. Thanks to our latest patron. Thanks to return patrons. Patreon.com/smAshomash. Cheers. Also, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Neo Renaissance. Visit our own website, smAshomash.com. Click on smAsho merch. There's a double sale going on right now at the smAsho merch shop. At Redbubble, yes. If you click on smAsho merch, it will relocate you. So head to smAshomash.com, click on smAsho merch, and you'll find our Redbubble shop. Today's featured product is the Google Bias shirt. If you're still using Google as a verb, please enter into the year 2021 and realize that Google as a verb means to obtain biased search result information. Yes, biased search result information. Let me show the graphics that I may have left off the screen. There are those filaments we talked about. And here's our Patreon credit crawl in reverse. I'll play that again. Hold on. I apologize. Again, we don't edit the videos, folks. Thanks again to our patrons. And the URL, once again, is patreon.com/smAshomash. Click on smAsho merch from our homepage, and you'll be redirected to the Redbubble shop. And you can save 20% site-wide with the promo code SUMMER21 on checkout. So enter the promo code SUMMER21 on checkout. We've also discounted all of our products throughout the month of June. So you'll get a double discount. Prices will go up regardless of their sale starting July 1st. Today's featured product is the Google Define shirt. Since the word Google, used as a verb, means to obtain biased search results, we've decided to make a design about it. So here it is. Google as a verb, to obtain biased search results by using the Google Junkware search engine on the internet. Usage: I Googled it, and now I know less about it. So perhaps check out one of those. I'm wearing it today. It's one of my favorite designs. Google defined. Please stop using it as a verb. It makes my ears bleed. And here come the rest of our bonus features. It's the solar magnetogram and the intensitygram. Let's see if we see a sunspot, and indeed we don't. Here are the magnetic fields of that rising region. And here's a close-up of sunspot 2833. There's the colorized magnetogram. It's still a beta-class sunspot. It still has a South Pole-oriented umbra, which is that one right there. And the likelihood of significant coronal, not coronal anything, solar flares is still there. Here's some more imagery. It's more composite imagery. We've been upping our game. So this is 1700 and 171 angstroms. 1700 angstroms is just extreme UV. It's good at showing things like sunspots. 171 angstroms is ionized iron. And here's a close-up of sunspot 2833. Now you're looking at ionized iron and ionized helium in 131 angstroms and 304 angstroms. Fantastic view of sunspot 2833 there. And we'll close things out with 171 and 1700 angstroms in the close-up of sunspot 2833. Thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather, folks. May that solar wind be at your back.